1, 2.
Okay, Sirak.
Doing the ASMR
That's
trend.
enough. All over TikTok.
I know the ASMR trends are really coming up so hard for me right now. It seems like everyone's into it. So I don't know. I just want to give the sisters a little ASMR intro. Maybe they want this.
PCOS.
Let us know, anyone, if you guys want us to do ASMR on the podcast.
Oh my
God.
God.
I don't know if
we're
we can
not doing
actually
that.
do it, but
Rip open Ovasitol, pour it in the water.
Yeah.
Hear the sounds of the dust. Like
sizzling. Yeah.
Doctor said you got PCOS. Now go on, girl, just lose some weight. Till I took the symptoms into my own hands and reversed them naturally. So I became a dietitian to help my sisters feel the best they've ever felt. Take a step in my direction if you wanna prove them wrong and take control of yourself. Join a sister and a mister.
What's up, everyone? Hope you're doing well. Welcome to another episode of the podcast. This is a sister and her mister.
a sister and her mister.
So today we're going to really talk about gluten and dairy-free diet. As you guys know, it's one of the diets that we recommend trying for 30 days to see if it's right for you. But we're going to talk about, can we have a cheat day, or can you have a cheat day with gluten and dairy-free, and what that's all about.
Yeah, we get a lot of DMs asking, can I have a cheat day?
Before we get there though, babe, acupuncture. Let's talk a little bit about how acupuncture has been going on, because we've been doing it for 7 weeks now. For our listeners, fellow listeners, we started 7 weeks ago. How have you felt, Tali, now?
Yeah, we're on an acupuncture journey. And, you know, as I reflect on like the first few times that I went, I definitely see a difference in my daily lifestyle. Like honestly, having to go at 5:30 on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays has made me prioritize that appointment and really carve out time for myself during the day instead of just like working, task after task, whatever I'm doing, and really prioritize and it's 20 minutes, the acupuncture, but it takes like 30, 40 by the time you like talk to the guy and everything.
Yeah. And for those wondering like what acupuncture is, maybe like you're imagining 1,000 needles on your back, because that's what I used to think like a couple of years ago when I didn't know a single thing about acupuncture. I was like, oh, isn't that where like they put needles on your back? And or like even
you
like
see it in movies, it's like really
there's like a bed of needles.
Yeah,
there's a bed of needles and the guy lays on top of it and then someone walks on top. Like that's what they show in movies, but that's not at all what it's about. Like so for those who've never done acupuncture, including myself, I didn't do it up until 2 months ago. Basically you lie down and the doctor will just put needles like 5-6 different locations. Now the location of the needle will depend on what your condition is. For example, like Tallene has been trying to improve her thyroid health, so the doctor has been putting it on her thighs, correct?
Yeah, my inner and outer thighs, all up and down.
Yeah, and I guess that has to do with the chi going down to going up to the thyroid. I mean, I'm just kind of like...
They can explain it so much better, but yeah.
Yeah, and for me, it's been about like lowering stress, improving testosterone, and just like basically overall like helping with my stress levels. And for me, like they've been putting it like between my toes. He's been putting it on my big toe, on my pinky toe, a couple times on my like upper lip, on my chin, sometimes on my head. It changes week to week. And like, so when they first put it, it can like hurt for like, let's just say a minute. Like for example, he put it on my toe once, not once, I mean, he's done it many times, but one time he put it on my toe and it was like throbbing for like a whole 2 minutes. Like I could feel like my heart rate like throbbing through my toe, like and then I was like, wow, this is pretty intense. But then after 2 minutes of lying there in the darkness, because they leave you for like 30 minutes after they needle you up, and after staying there for like 2 minutes, it started to go away and I started to focus on my breath. I started to just like breathe in, breathe out. And then like after 15 minutes of just trying to relax, you literally start to melt. Like it's almost like literally your body's melting onto the bed and you can't get up because you're an ice cream. Not really though. Like it feels like like when you're like that feeling of falling asleep where you're like you try to catch yourself, like that's what's happening, and it's the most relaxing feeling. Same thing for you, right, babe?
Yeah. Except you're not like waking up in a panic.
No.
You know, but you literally melt, and it almost,
literally.
And it almost feels like you're in heaven. And now this isn't every single time we've gone. Sometimes we're so high strung or we're so like too many things going on in our minds that we don't reach that level of relaxation.
Of that melt.
But if we go into it well rested, stable already, like mentally, you know, then we reach that point where we're melting on the table.
Yeah.
And so I really encourage you to like do a little meditation, clear your mind, then go to acupuncture and melt away.
Yeah. And like when you're lying down in the darkness, just like meditate in that moment too, because that will help you relax and like fall asleep. And when you wake up, it just feels like there's this weight off your shoulders. Like a good example I have is, you know, when you work all day and like maybe you're working at the desk, you know, on your computer, maybe you're doing more of a physical job, and then you feel like that tension in your back, you know, like your back, it feels like so hard and just tense. You do acupuncture and it literally like that tension like melts away. It lightens up. When you get out, you can like stand up straight. Your back doesn't feel tight. 100%. That's like the best benefit for me is feeling relaxed.
You can walk lightly, you know, instead of like tense and hunched over.
Yeah, like those times where he does my big toe and stuff. It literally feels like my foot is like 10 pounds lighter. Like when I'm walking afterwards, it feels like there's a hole in my foot and there's wind going through my foot as if I'm just like throwing a paper airplane in the air and it's just like whizzing through like aerodynamic. Like my foot is more aerodynamic is what I would like to say.
I wish you could see his face while he's explaining this, sisters.
So yeah, that's been our acupuncture experience so far. But with that being said, let's go into this week's episode.
Let's do it. All right. So this week's episode, we're talking about cheat days, babe. How do we feel about cheat days?
Well, as we always say, if you joined us on our Instagram lives, we don't like calling it cheat day or cheat meal for anything because that adds a negative connotation. It automatically makes you feel bad because of the word cheat in it. Because when it comes to being gluten and dairy free for PCOS, or when it comes to any diet whatsoever, it's not about perfection, but rather consistency.
Exactly.
Consistency with gluten and dairy free is the key. Now, other diets, for example, like keto, you have to be perfect.
Right. Or else it just doesn't work at all. You're not in ketosis.
Yeah. And even when you are perfect, it can still be a miserable experience.
Yeah.
And then there's other low carb diets. There's cutting calories. There's all these things that maybe does require people to be quote unquote perfect with limited results. But when you're going gluten and dairy free, it's more so about consistency. Maybe for some it's 80%, others 90%. Maybe 99% if you're feeling amazing and it's easier for you, then yeah.
Yeah. I've seen responses from sisters who have gone like 80% gluten and dairy free and lost weight or their symptoms got better, whatever symptoms it may be, their acne, their bloating, their mood.
Yeah.
And that's just 80%. That's not 100%. And maybe after seeing that wonderful result from going gluten and dairy free, then eventually they become 100%. And I feel like that's what happened with me. I started with like zero expectations of perfection because I was so over diets and how nothing would work. Yeah. So I was like, gluten, dairy free, fine. So I'd start with breakfast. Eventually I would get used to that and start eating a gluten and dairy free lunch. And then if I accidentally had some, I would evaluate how I felt. Okay, I'm bloated. Looks like this is really doing something to me. And slowly, my body just got used to gluten and dairy free. And I was making easier choices to eat gluten and dairy free. Like when I was eating out and so on, it was easier to choose my meals. But this came with time and patience, and I was just at a point in my life when I went gluten and dairy free where I was so over the strict mentality. And I was like, everyone just leave me alone.
Yeah.
If this feels good, I'll do it. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But it turns out it did.
And many people get caught up in that thought of like, oh, nothing will work, right? Because they've been led to so many different directions.
Yeah.
You know, PCOS is a complex condition and there can be so many directions that you can go into. And unfortunately, a lot of them can be the wrong direction, and that can leave you feeling defeated, almost like nothing is going to work. So with that being said, we're trying to make it easy for you. You know, that's why we have this podcast to help you explain all these different topics. That's why we've created the sisterhood. You know, we put all the steps of going gluten-free, dairy-free, finding your PCOS type, finding your carb tolerance, workouts, all this stuff in a step-by-step way so that you're able to do it at your own pace without like feeling like you're rushed and things like that.
Yeah, every single obstacle you might face going gluten-free or dairy-free, we have a short video in the sisterhood about it that Sirak has like edited to perfection. It's hilarious to watch. But even like eating out, for example, you know, how to eat out, how to ask the waiter what you should look out for, or restocking your pantry. We have a pantry tour and I show like exactly what I need in my pantry to sustain a PCOS friendly gluten and dairy free lifestyle.
Yeah.
So once you know these things, it's easier to do, you know, educating yourself.
And not to mention, if you're looking for like motivation, inspiration, if you're looking for proof, we have a bunch of testimonials and we want to inspire you. So if you want to head over to like our Instagram, for example, PCOS.weightloss, you can see a bunch of testimonials there about sisters who are either going gluten dairy free, finding their PCOS type, and just basically taking, you know, their PCOS in the right direction. We have all these testimonials there that you can get inspired from. So I highly recommend checking out our Instagram to see those testimonials.
Yes.
And it can help you, you know, just feeling more motivated to take the next steps.
Yeah, I'd say so. I read this really hilarious analogy about changing your diet. It said basically changing your diet is like learning a new sport. You got to flex that muscle to grow it. But sometimes it feels too hard, so we want to cheat. And in sports, you'd be disqualified if you cheated, but in life, you just move on. So instead of calling it a cheat meal, just try to make it and accept it as part of your lifestyle. Nobody's perfect.
Yeah. That's a really good analogy. Because, you know, in sports, when you do when you do a penalty or whatever, a referee comes in and says, you're kicked out of the game. Or they say 15-yard penalty. And then the touchdown gets taken away. And then your fantasy football player doesn't get the 6 points that you've been looking for. This happens to me all the time.
Okay, we're talking about diet change.
But yeah, so in sports, when you make a mistake in sports, a referee comes. But in life, there isn't that referee.
No.
So it's just on you to stay positive and look forward to the next meal and not feel defeated, right?
Exactly. Just do you, boo.
Yeah.
Who cares? Let's move on.
Yeah.
So how do we avoid slipping up though? Like what are some of these roadblocks that get in our way? Well, we're going to talk about the top 3 roadblocks and give you some tips on how to manage your lifestyle and diet so that you can get through them. Did you hear about that sister who took Ovasitol and finally got her period after a year of not having one?
Incredible. I see those kinds of messages on Instagram a lot. How does that even happen?
Well, Ovasitol helps with healing insulin resistance, a common root issue that most PCOS sisters have. And by targeting insulin resistance, we're seeing sisters kick those crazy cravings, finally regulate their periods, ovulate, and improve their egg quality. Each packet of Ovasitol has a 40-to-1 ratio of myoinositol and D-chiroinositol. This ratio is similar to the ratio that should be found in the body, but with women like me who have PCOS, this ratio is often imbalanced. So, taking Ovasitol can be super effective in treating insulin resistance, starting from the root of the issue.
So awesome. It tastes like nothing, so just warn me when you put it in a cup so I don't drink it.
You got it, boo. Check out the link in the description to get 15% off your order.
All right, babe, let's take a moment to correct our posture, take a deep breath, and have some pure spectrum CBD.
Sure. Hey sisters, CBD can help with acne, inflammation, anxiety, sleep, and so many other PCOS symptoms. I personally take it throughout the day to help keep my stress hormones nice and low. Not to mention, I sleep like a baby every night and I don't wake up fatigued at all.
Now open your mouth, please, so I can give you a serving.
Ah.
Now hold it for 60 seconds. Head over to purespectrumcbd.com and use the code THESISTERHOOD, one word, for 10% off.
Can I stop now?
Nope, you got 30 more seconds.
So the first one is, for example, Monday and Tuesday, you're killing it. The rest of the week or weekend, it goes downhill. Sometimes this happens.
Yeah, do you think that's because like you're setting yourself up, like you're like creating this huge expectation and you're setting yourself up to think, okay, I'm going to do amazing. Monday, Tuesday, you go super hard. And then you go so hard the first 2 days that the rest of the week, it's like hard to continue that, like, you know, that pace.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that we set these unrealistic expectations because there's a lot on the line, like fertility, you know, and that's a lot of pressure. Like if somebody says, do this diet and your fertility will improve. Then you set this crazy expectation that you're going to be perfect at this diet tomorrow because you have all this pressure on your shoulders because you really want to have a baby, whatever the case may be. That's where we get caught up in this 100% mentality. So want to evaluate that, do a little check-in with yourself, think, is this something that you're struggling with?
I think the same thing happens to us. We go so hard with our work Monday, Tuesday, that by the time it's Wednesday, we're like burnt out. We're like, there's still 3 days left. And like, why did we go so hard in the first 2 days? We could have like spaced things out better and like been more comfortable doing the other stuff. So.
I always want to finish everything on Monday.
Same.
And I always have to talk myself out of it every Monday.
And then Monday becomes this crazy hectic day.
Yeah.
So the second point, or the second example of how, to avoid slipping up, you feel like you make poor food choices when you're tired and overwhelmed.
Yeah, this would happen in college, and I'm sure that we have some students listening, where you have classes, you stayed up all night, you have to study, you're hanging out with friends, and now you're tired, and now you're over it. And when somebody says, let's get pizza, you're like, sure.
Yeah.
Because what are you going to cook something? You're exhausted by now,
Yeah.
So with that being said, something that really worked for me in college was preparing in advance and packing my lunch, packing my snack, making sure that I was creating time for preparation for my meals. So I even have pictures in my phone, which I should probably post when this podcast comes out, because I would work so hard on what I would eat, I would take pictures of, I had a juicer, I'd make juice. I would like pack my carrots and like gluten-free crackers or whatever to like munch on in the library. I'd pack a turkey sandwich. You always see my turkey sandwiches on stories. And yeah, that really helped me. What other tips do we have for that? Stabilizing your blood sugar is also a key factor in preparing all of your snacks and meals, because if you go hungry for a long time, then you just want to like eat a bunch and then you won't stop eating because now your insulin's high. Yeah,
that's such a good point. So if you're like starving yourself for like, if you're skipping lunch, you're skipping breakfast, then when you do finally get a chance to eat, you're going to just feel overwhelmed by the hunger and your blood sugar dysregulation, and it's just going to have a negative impact on how you're eating and stuff. Yeah.
It's like you unlock the gates. And you just can't stop. Didn't this happen yesterday when we were filming and we couldn't eat all day?
Yeah, we were filming YouTube all day from like 12 until 6. And then by the time we got back home, it was like we got dinner at 7. So we like went so long. I mean, I'm sure we had like a little snack, like RX bar.
Like 3
a little taco snack. Yeah.
I mean, good thing I had ribs for breakfast. Let's talk about that for a second. If you have a busy day ahead of you, you can plan your breakfast to be big. And then if you really can't eat, like you have classes or whatever for like 4 hours and you can't eat anything, at least you had a high protein breakfast. And that's what I did. I had mashed potatoes and ribs at 11 o'clock. Then we started filming at 12 and I didn't eat anything till like 4 or 5.
That's a good way of thinking about it.
Yeah.
So the next point, or like how to avoid slipping up, is not being familiar with gluten and dairy-free foods, and that results in being inconsistent.
I mean, if you're starting out and you really want to be like perfectly gluten and dairy-free, but you don't know how to, that can be a major slip up. Yeah,
you can be accidentally slipping up and as a result being inconsistent, and it's not even your fault. You're just not aware of these different little details, which honestly, I would like, my first tip for that is don't be hard on yourself about it, because it takes time to learn how to be gluten dairy free, like to learn the ins and outs of the different things, especially when you go to restaurants and stuff. Like you don't realize what different restaurants will put into sauces, will put into like toppings, or even like when they fry. Some people fry with flour, while some people fry with like cornstarch. Some
people put flour in soups.
Yeah.
Who would think that if you just started gluten dairy free?
Totally. Like you're drinking soup, you think, oh, soup, healthy, gluten dairy free, but then they put flour in it. So it's like, you don't know. So don't be hard on yourself when it comes to, knowing the ins and outs. But going off of that, we also do in the Sisterhood have a whole gluten and dairy free pantry tour. So there are 2 separate videos. One is a pantry tour to basically tell you all the different gluten-free foods in Taline's kitchen, our kitchen.
Yeah, our kitchen. And it's as simple as like potatoes are gluten-free. Some people, they don't know that yet.
Yeah, or rice. We had a lot of questions about rice because unfortunately, in the PCOS community, so many people will say, don't eat rice. It's bad for blood sugar regulation. Of course, if you eat too much, it can be bad. But if you're eating in moderation, correct portion size, then rice is definitely okay.
Exactly. You can definitely eat rice, potatoes, things like that. And a lot of people are unfamiliar with that when they first start out. And I think that's totally fine to make mistakes in the beginning, especially because that is going to teach you slowly but surely. I mean, I remember countless mistakes I've made going gluten-free, especially like thinking that I was eating rice noodles at a Thai restaurant, but the rice noodles were mixed with flour. I had no idea. Then I was bloated. Then I had acne. And I was like, oh. And then I called the restaurant and asked them. Oh my God, there were so many instances where I'd get symptoms and then I'd have to call the restaurant just to like see what's up. For example, this one Mexican restaurant I went to, I thought I was eating corn chips. And I was eating flour chips.
No.
Like literally just flour. I was eating flour.
Wow. And that's why we always ask now when they bring chips,
Yeah.
corn chips, you know?
Yeah.
But usually most, like especially if you go to most Mexican restaurants, it's corn chips or corn tortillas because that's like the traditional way. But even then,
That's what
they
I
make
thought.
flour sometimes.
Exactly. So then when I called, they said, well, last night we ran out of corn chips and we had to use flour.
Wow.
The lady said that. And I was like, what?
What?
What? But you start learning the texture and the difference between the texture of corn and flour. And I'm going to mention one more thing. When you ask the waiter, is this gluten-free or dairy-free? And they're like, yeah. And their face changes. Don't believe them. Don't just be like, well, he said yeah, and then get sick.
Yeah.
Really,
Especially if they answer like, yeah. Like if they say like that.
I'm like,
Yeah.
Like, and I don't make them feel bad about
no.
it. I don't even show them.
Yeah.
That my expression, my reaction to. I'm like, oh, okay, thanks, and they bring it, and it's like an appetizer or something. I just don't eat it.
Yeah.
You know, don't blame them.
Yeah.
If they like poison you.
And it's always good to tell them right away in advance. Like before you even
Right.
order, like as you're sitting down.
That'll help.
And they ask you for like, drinks, water, whatever. You can be like, oh, by the way, I have a gluten dairy-free sensitivity. If you want to call it an allergy, they take that way more serious
Yeah.
because if you say allergy, then now the restaurant's like, ooh, okay, we don't want something to happen. So they take it even more serious then. And just saying it ahead of time helps. And I will give like a funny example of my mom. Like my mom, like she loves to bake stuff for me and Tallene, and because Tallene is gluten dairy free and I'm basically like 90% gluten dairy free, she'll make cookies or she'll make like different like baked goods from gluten free flour, right? So she was showing me the bag that she's been like using lately, and she's like, oh, look at this gluten free flour brand that I found. It looks really cool. I think it was called Cup to Cup or something from Target. I'm not exactly sure.
No, I think it's Pamela's gluten-free flour.
That was different. She was showing me, it was like a blue bag. It says cup to cup
Oh,
something.
let me
Anyway,
check. Okay.
anyway, so I was like, oh, that's cool, Mom. And I look at the bag, I look at the ingredients, and it is gluten free. But when you look at the ingredients, it includes milk powder. So although it's gluten free, it's not dairy free. And that was just like an honest mistake that my mom made, but anyone could make that mistake. Like you're looking for gluten-free flour, you're not thinking about dairy, right? Like most people wouldn't think about dairy when they're...
Oh my God, you're right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Tallene's Googling as I'm like, speaking.
I didn't know that either. I
Yeah.
thought it was just Pamela's.
No. So what is the brand called, just so everyone's aware?
Cup for Cup.
Cup for a Cup, yeah.
Wow.
So I'm not saying anything bad about the brand. I mean, I'm sure it's a
No,
great
it's
brand.
Great. We've been using it. My mom has been using
Are you serious?
Well, now she uses Bob's Red Mill because
Yeah.
I've told her
Yeah,
that
yeah.
it's great.
Yeah.
But she used to use it, and I didn't know that had dairy in it.
Yeah, so it has milk powder. So for anyone, just a FY and yeah, it's an honest mistake that anyone could make.
Of
just
course.
you don't know,
You
right?
just don't know.
Yeah.
Till you have cystic acne, and then
Yeah.
you know.
So going off of that, basically, it takes time to be consistent, and you just want to like check the menu, check the ingredients, and after a while, you'll be way more knowledgeable about it. So you don't have to like
Yeah.
always second guess what you're eating. And again, we're always happy to help you find those exact foods in the sisterhood. We have a whole recipe library for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and we just added snacks as well as vegan recipes. So we want to support our vegan listeners, and we want them to feel like they have as many recipes as they need. So we have added vegan recipes into the sisterhood as well if you're interested.
That's right. So, sisters, if you've fallen off track, get right back on with your next meal. Don't feel bad about it.
Well, that's my question to you, babe. What if you are off track? How do you get back in the routine?
It's just the next meal. Whatever.
Yeah.
Moving on. It happens. Evaluate why it happened. We listed all of the reasons why there are roadblocks to consistency. Evaluate whether you've stumbled upon some of them. And next time you'll be more aware and it won't happen again. You know, nobody's perfect. And if it's a lifestyle, you certainly don't want to have this like pressure on yourself for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So just do you, boo.
I completely agree. All right. So those are our tips, but we're not done yet. We have our DMs. So we like to ask sisters a similar question and get your responses. So on Instagram at PCOS.weightloss, we asked the following question. When you feel like you've gotten off track with eating gluten dairy free, what do you do to get back on track? And these were our responses.
KT Wood says, scroll through your page. I love that.
That's cute. We like that.
I totally do that. If I fall off my wagon of like fitness and working out, I just go on fitness, like Tone It Up. I love them. I look at their stuff.
Nice.
Motivates me back on track.
Hell yeah. Next one's from Annie Christine. She says, I sit in the sauna and detox. It helps me bring my focus back to my health. Ooh, that's a cool tip. Just like sitting down and maybe meditating, just like relaxing, maybe just letting your mind and brain, your body just like calm down so you can like just be more in tune with what you want and stuff. Yeah, that's a really good point.
Samantha K says, just take the next step. Eat gluten and dairy free and remember it's a lifestyle. That's what's up, girl.
Love that answer by Samantha. Next one is Raindela, I think is her name. And she says, feel how crappy it makes me feel and get back to it.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a good point in its own because if you can see how it makes you feel in a negative way, then it's like training your body to be like, I don't want to feel that way. So why am I going to go back to it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's how it works at the end of the day. We always make the mistakes. And if we can self-evaluate and think about why or how we feel and what it's doing to us, then it's so much easier to be consistent and create a lifestyle out of it.
Yeah. You just don't want to like make yourself feel guilty and feel like bad for hours and hours and stuff like that. You want to avoid that. But if you can just kind of, you know what? I broke out in acne after I ate dairy yesterday. I don't want acne. So it's not really worth it for me to eat it. And the next time around, you're going to be like, I don't want it. Like, why would I, you know?
And be careful because you might lie to yourself. Okay, this is what I was doing for quite some time. I thought that it would be okay if on the weekends we would go to parties or whatever, and I'd have a little bit of dairy, maybe a slice of cheese from the cheese board, or maybe a little bit of frosting from a cake. And I figured I was so consistent during the week, and this one little instance won't do anything. But as it turns out, thanks to quarantine, I realized that it was affecting my skin. I am that sensitive. And during quarantine, I was so consistent. I've never had better skin in my life. Okay. And then when quarantine ended, we started going places and I was doing this thing again. Boom. There it goes.
Yeah.
Back with the acne.
Totally.
Not worth it. All right, last one. Cray. Start with one at a time to get back on track. Cut out gluten or dairy, whichever is easier to cut out first. Yeah. In the sisterhood, we do that. First gluten, then dairy.
Yeah. One at a time, one step at a time is like one of the most powerful tools you can use. So, hell yeah. All right. So before we get to the last part of the podcast, the wins of the week, we do have our hotline. For anyone who's new, we have a hotline that you can call or leave a message. The phone number is 1-833-ASK-PCOS, 1-833-ASK-PCOS. Every time I say it, I feel like it's like a 1-833. You know, like those commercials?
Yeah.
So this week we have a text message that was sent over to the hotline. And here is the message. She says, "Hi, my name is Sarah. I have been listening to all your podcasts and they have been super helpful. I had one quick question. My doctor told me it isn't good to be eating as much protein from animals because of age, which is advanced glycation end. My doctor said that vegetarian diet is best for my PCOS. What is your opinion on this?" Well, one thing we should say first is if you're working with a doctor, work with your doctor, and we don't want to get in between what your doctor's recommending when it comes to all these different things.
Ultimately, it is your choice what you want to do. And there's no one best diet for PCOS. Everyone can just suggest something, but you would have to try and see how it makes you feel.
Absolutely. So when it comes to the vegetarian diet, though, what do you think, Tanya? Is that something that, what's your thought on the vegetarian diet?
So I have read studies about how like red meat can affect our insulin levels, and we should reduce our intake of red meat. We should choose hormone-free, organic,
grass-fed, pasture-raised.
Yeah, and I'm here for it. You know, I want to eat meat, once a week if I could. I probably eat it more than that. But with that being said, vegetarian diets can tend to be higher in carbs. So when you're trying to eat protein as a vegetarian, you may find that the protein sources are carb sources. So if you're having quinoa, beans, things like that, which are wonderful, they might contribute to a higher carb diet, which will maybe prevent you from losing weight or maybe contribute to fatigue or your PCOS symptoms. So you want to evaluate that. And you want to evaluate GI distress, because beans and those legumes that you get your protein from, they could cause bloating and indigestion, especially if you already have leaky gut and inflammation and things like this. It can really make it harder to digest these beans. And my sister went vegetarian because she thought that it might work for like a week. And she was bloated and just falling apart. So it didn't work for her, but it might work for someone else.
Yeah, and not to mention, when you're cutting out all this animal protein from your diet, you're missing a lot of beneficial nutrients, vitamins, beneficial amino acids that are crucial for recovery, for your muscles, for your entire body. So you're missing a lot of these nutrients, like the B12, correct?
Yeah.
So, I mean, when it comes to that, that's why we wouldn't recommend as the vegetarian diet as the go-to diet.
Yeah.
Because, again, what Talian said, a lot of the protein content from vegetarian diet has high carb content.
Yeah.
So it's hard to have a high protein to carb ratio as a result.
Yeah.
And then the missing nutrients, amino acids that are crucial for recovery. Yeah.
And then fish is so good for you, like wild caught salmon, it's high in omega-3 fats. It's great for inflammation. Like there's just so many benefits. So what I would personally do if I was presented with the suggestion to go vegetarian is I would do like one vegetarian meal a day or something. And this is what I do. I try to have a vegetarian lunch most days. I think that helps me reduce my red meat intake. I feel like I feel good afterwards.
More fiber.
Yeah, I'm full. I have energy. I, in fact, feel more energetic with a higher fat lunch, like more hummus and avocado and nuts and seeds and things like that, than a piece of meat or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's what makes me feel good. Find what makes you feel good.
And for any of our vegetarian or vegan sisters out there, we do have new vegan recipes that are all dropped on the Sisterhood. So you can always check that out if you like to. All right. That's the hotline question for this episode. Let's go to the wins of the week. So the wins of the week are fellow sisters who are managing their PCOS, losing weight, and thriving and feeling like in control of their body.
Today I chose a couple from the Sisterhood.
All right. Who is our first winner, babe?
Hannah Biglione. She says, as of today, I am down 19 pounds since January 1st.
Woo!
I didn't start seeing results until I changed my mindset, though. And here are my tips.
She has 6 tips, too. So I love this. I love that she gave her, or 7 tips, top 7 tips.
Of her.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 1, go gluten and dairy free, but don't deprive yourself if you are on vacation or out at a great restaurant. That is so smart. And our meal prep and workout course, we don't have meals that you have to prep during the weekend because you want to live your life. I'm here for it. Like you have to live your life and not be so strict. Okay.
Yes.
Let me go on to 2 because we have 7 to talk about. If you do eat gluten and dairy, just pick back up the next day like it never happened. Getting mad at yourself most likely will result in eating more or just stressing you out.
Amen. Like literally what we've been talking about this episode.
Yes. 3, continue to lower carb intake. It may seem impossible, but it's not. We don't need bread, rice, beans. Carbs can come from avocados, broccoli, cauliflower. Well, I can see where she's coming from.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the carb intake will be individual to each one. So you don't have to like completely lower it. You don't have to like increase it so high. You can find the range that's right for you. And it sounds like for this sister, a lower carb intake work, which is amazing, And what she's saying is like also right too. Like you don't need to have a lot of carbs either. You know? You can focus more on the protein and the healthy fats rather than just on the carbs. So it's great.
Exactly. Yeah. And also, I think she means like don't get obsessive about lowering the carbs. You can get them from avocados and foods like that.
I see.
Okay. Number 4, if you have a craving of something, eat it. And then find a healthy alternative for that craving for the future. Wow, that's a great tip.
Yeah. Like a snack.
have it
like
if
a
you
fruit,
want it.
healthy fat, or a fruit and a nut butter snack. That's like great. It can help
Yeah.
you, it's a great way to get rid of cravings and helps you find a healthy alternative.
Exactly. I mean, she says like just go ahead and eat it though. Like if it's chips, if it's chocolate candy, like
I'm sorry.
don't like deprive yourself. I think that's a clever way to, because if you deprive yourself, you're just gonna like engorge on it later,
Yes.
So just eat it.
Yeah.
And then think like, okay, can I buy a healthier chocolate
Yeah.
or something?
Yeah, that's my bad. I misunderstood.
Yeah.
Misunderstood that the first time
Yeah,
I read
because
it.
it's a new perspective. I
Yeah.
have never thought of that. Number 5, I eat as good as I can all week. So when the weekend comes and if I want to have more carbs, I don't feel guilty because I put in the work all week. That can go both ways. That can be tricky. Sometimes, if you restrict all week, then you eat a lot over the weekend. But for her, she probably just minds her carbs all week. And then if she's somewhere doing something, she wants to enjoy herself.
Yeah, she doesn't feel the pressure to
Sure, yeah.
not eat it or something because she's been so consistent Monday through Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Number 6, eat foods that fuel your body.
Yes.
Love that.
Yes.
7, fresh is best. Veggies, berries, lean protein, nuts. The less ingredients, the better.
Yeah.
While losing these 19 pounds, I have enjoyed 4 vacations where I let myself indulge on sushi, pasta, truffle bread, all the good stuff. And then I got back home and got straight back on the grind.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And that just goes to what we were talking about earlier, consistency versus perfection. You can still enjoy your life. You can still enjoy the weekends, vacations. Like, I love it. It's amazing.
Yes.
Amazing message from Hannah. If you want to see like more information, like tips like this, it's all part of the Facebook community that we have with the sisterhood. That's where like a lot of sisters like Hannah are sharing their journey, sharing their experience, what they're doing, and just asking each other questions. That's like the most powerful tool you can have as a community.
Yeah. We could do a whole podcast episode on her one message.
Yeah, right.
All right. What's the next one, babe?
So the next win of the week is also from the sisterhood. Her name is Shambhavi Pandey. Shambhavi Pandey. She says, celebrating a small win with the community here. In the last 3 weeks, I have been mostly gluten and dairy free, like 90%, and I am happy to experience more energy and start my day without caffeine. Cherry on the top is I am 3.5 pounds down. I haven't started any of the workout routines yet, but I am looking forward to it now. Thanks, Tallene. Oh, that's amazing. Amazing.
That's amazing.
And yeah, she says 90%, she's not being like so strict and being like, 100%. You don't need to be if you find the level that's right for you.
Yeah.
And you can always increase it over time. But
3.5 pounds in 3 weeks is so good.
Yeah.
I mean, 1 to 2 pounds per week is ideal. If you don't lose any weight for a week and then the next week you lose 1 pound, that's great too. I mean, especially in the beginning of your PCOS journey, don't be discouraged by not seeing the fast results. You might just be healing the insides first, right?
Yeah.
Getting your insulin and inflammation down and getting used to the lifestyle, and then later you see results quickly. But anyways, my point is,
no, you're absolutely
that can
right.
also trip you up if you're getting obsessive about like, why isn't one more time, 1 pound's not enough, and why isn't it going down?
A 1 to 2 pound a week is a great goal to have. And even if you don't get that, it's still good to like just consistently over time lose weight. You don't have to lose a lot at once, just like Klein said. Amazing. Thank you so much, Shambhavi. And also, I love how she mentioned like starting my day without caffeine. I've been doing that for the last 3 weeks, and it's been difficult. And I can definitely relate to like finally not feeling the need for it.
Oh,
I sometimes had that like, ooh, I'm so energetic today. I don't need coffee. It's a great feeling. So
yeah, especially if you get good sleep.
yeah,
Awesome.
like we did last night.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was a great
sisters,
episode.
It was lovely chatting with you.
Yeah, we got acupuncture again tomorrow. Maybe you're telling you should do like a time lapse. Put a camera in the room. Just do a time lapse.
I'm going to.
Yeah. Just ask the doctor if that's okay.
Yeah.
Because it'll show him come in the room and put the needle and all that
And
stuff.
he's on Instagram.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll be cool with it.
Of course.
Yeah.
He's nice.
Yeah, very nice.
All right, sisters. Thanks so much for listening. We hope this motivated you and made you feel more comfortable on your PCOS journey.
We'll be back next week with another episode. Until then, have a great one.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.
If you enjoyed listening to this podcast, you have to come check out The Sisterhood. It's my monthly membership site where sisters just like you are learning how to move through the stages of PCOS, from stage 1, cold and alone at the doctor's office, to stage 5, nailing the PCOS lifestyle, gluten and dairy free. Get ready to finally feel in control of your body again.